Revealed. How my husband's cruel lesson in the rain sparked an amazing transformation in my life. Sarah stood at the counter of the diner, her hands dusted with flour and her heart heavy. The scent of baked pies filled the air, sweet and comforting, a contrast to the storm brewing inside her home. For years she'd poured herself into the family diner, a warm beacon for the townsfolk who gathered for breakfast, sharing laughter and life around greasy plates and steaming mugs of coffee. But as she glanced out the window, the dark clouds mirrored her growing unease. The diner was struggling. Its heart, like her own, seemed to be slowly losing its pulse. Early mornings had always felt like a blessing, a time to create and connect. But now, even as she served loyal customers their breakfast, she could see the pity in their eyes. They loved her, yes, but they could sense her worry. Her husband Mark, once her rock, sat on the sidelines, his silence growing heavier with each passing day. He was a veteran, haunted by memories she could only imagine. She felt him slipping away, just as the diner's vitality faded. One stormy night, thunder echoed like the heartache between them. In a fit of frustration, Mark dragged her outside, the rain crashing down, soaking their clothes and emotions. "You need to toughen up, Sarah," he shouted over the storm, words sharp like the cold rain against her skin. "This diner isn't a dream. It's a sinking ship." Each word cut deeper than the last. "I'm trying," she gasped, her heart aching under the weight of his anger. As the rain poured, it washed away her strength, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. But beneath that storm of hurt, something sparked within her, a flicker of determination. They had built this life together, and she was not ready to let it slip away. In the days that followed, Sarah sought connection with the women of her town. Local small business owners welcomed her with open arms, and through their stories of resilience and grit, she began to envision a future for herself beyond just the diner. They shared advice, laughter, and the power of community, like warm soup on a cold day. Hope ignited in her heart. What could she accomplish if she truly dared to dream again? But with that hope came uncertainty. Mark remained distant, and the tension between them thickened like a fog. Just as she began to redefine her path, a neighbor stopped by, sharing the struggles he knew Mark faced after leaving the army. The weight of these unspoken battles only deepened the emotional chasm. How could she heal when they were both mired in their own pain? Sarah stood at a crossroads. The urge to fight for her marriage clashed with her yearning for independence. As flowers bloomed the next day, she glanced out at the world, feeling the tension in the air. Forgiveness or self-discovery? The storm inside her seemed no less fierce than the one on that fateful night. The future was uncertain, but something had shifted within her. She took a deep breath, gathering the courage to confront Mark. The first step felt electric, and she knew she was on the verge of something monumental. What would she choose? The answer lingered just out of reach, leaving her heart racing, ready for the confrontation, a potentially life-altering moment that awaited just beyond her front door. As Sarah took that deep breath, the air outside felt charged with possibility. She stepped away from the comfort of the diner and stood on the porch, still weathered from the storm that had raged just days before. The aroma of fresh coffee wafted through the open door, but her focus was solely on the figure of Mark, hunched by their old pickup truck. He looked lost, a shadow of the man she once knew, a man infused with life and laughter. Gathering her resolve, she made her way over, her heart pounding with uncertainty. Each step felt heavy, laden with the weight of so many unspoken words. Mark turned toward her, his expression unreadable, the fire in his eyes dimmed to embers. "Mark," she began, her voice steady yet trembling. "We need to talk." He ran a hand through his hair, his frustration evident. "Is it about the diner again? We can't afford to keep pretending everything's fine." "No, it's about us," she replied, her heart racing. "About what's happening between us." Mark's face hardened, but Sarah pressed on. "I see you the way you've been struggling. I feel the distance growing, and it hurts. It hurts more than you know." For a moment silence hung between them, heavy like the storm clouds that had just passed. And then, to her surprise, something shifted in Mark's expression, a glimmer of vulnerability. "I don't know how to do this, Sarah. I thought I could keep it together. I thought being tough was what you needed." Her breath caught. This was the bravest thing he could say, and the cracks in his facade began to show. "Mark, I need you too, but I can't carry all of this alone. We have to face it together. The diner, the past, everything. Mark shifted, rubbing his forehead like he was trying to stave off a headache. What if I'm too broken to fix? The question hung in the air, raw and painful. Then let us be broken together. She ventured. We can build from there. We have each other, we just need to lean on one another. Something, a flicker of hope, maybe, began to light up Mark's eyes. Sarah watched as he took a deep breath, taking in her words. He stepped closer, the space between them shrinking, as if he too felt the pull of their shared history. I don't want to lose you, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. And you won't, she replied, reaching out to touch his arm. But we have to start healing. We have to talk about what's really going on. The heaviness in the air seemed to shift, the tension of the past few months releasing with every moment they shared. As they stood alone on that porch, a bridge formed, fragile yet powerful, one that could lead them back to each other. But just as hope began to weave its way back into her heart, a distant rumbling interrupted their moment, echoing like an unsettled storm cloud. Sarah glanced up, and a dark shadow drifted over the sun, just as Mark's phone buzzed ominously in his pocket. What's that? She asked, her heart racing again, fear clawing at the edges of her newfound courage. Mark pulled out the phone, his face falling as he read the message. It's Colonel Harris. She felt her stomach twist. Just as they were beginning to open up to each other, reality threatened to shut them down again. What does he want? Mark's jaw clenched. He needs me back in the field. They're having crisis drills. I can't leave now, can I? A sinking pit formed in Sarah's chest. Just when they had taken a step forward, fate seemed determined to throw them another curveball. With the weight of the world threatening to pull them apart again, Sarah felt a new storm brewing, one that could change everything. What now? She whispered, her voice trembling, unsure of where this path would lead them next. Mark's eyes flickered, caught between duty and the warmth of connection they had just rekindled. Sarah, I can't just walk away from this. His voice was strained, like a rubber band pulled too tight. She felt a rush of anguish surge within her. You just opened up, and now you want to run back into the storm? What about us? Her heart raced, battling between wanting him to do what was right and needing him to stay. I know, but they're counting on me, he said, exasperated. I can't let them down. And what about me? What if I need you more right now? The words slipped out before she could stop them, raw and unfiltered. He recoiled, and she saw anger flash across his face, anger mixed with a fear that echoed her own. You know this isn't just about us, Sarah. It never was. Then when is it ever going to be? Tears pricked her eyes as she confronted the reality of their situation. You keep burying yourself in this job, hoping it'll distract you. But it won't. You can't hide from this forever. Silence enveloped them, a suffocating presence. As they stood on the porch, the diner, a quiet witness to their confrontation. She could see the internal battle etched on Mark's face. Maybe, he finally murmured, almost like he was speaking to himself. Maybe I thought if I just kept at it, things would turn around for both of us. By leaving me behind? Sarah's voice cracked. By putting on a brave face while we drift apart? Mark stepped back, releasing a frustrated sigh. It's not that simple. The army needs me, and maybe I need it too. Do you really believe that? Or is it just an excuse to keep running? Her heart ached as she challenged him, desperate for the truth beneath his layers of bravado. He fell quiet, his expression wavering. What if I'm not ready to face everything? Not even with you here? Then let us take it one step at a time. We can't fix everything in one conversation, she urged gently, reaching out again, fingers brushing against his. For a moment, it felt like the world around them faded into the background. The diner, the truck, even the dark clouds above, all dimmed as they stood in their own bubble. Promise me you won't push me away, he whispered. Not when we're finally getting to the heart of it all. I promise, she replied, swallowing hard. Their eyes locking in a moment that felt electrifying yet fragile. But just as she felt a wave of relief wash over her, Mark's phone buzzed again, shattering the connection between them. He glanced at the screen, his face paling. It's Harris again, he said, his voice dropping. They're calling for me, I have to go. No. Panic rose in Sarah's throat as dread entwined with her heart. You can't just leave. I have to, his resolve crumbled. But the sound of his phone vibrating again broke through the moment. Mark's face hardened as he glanced back at the screen. Sarah, no. She pleaded, the desperation in her voice palpable. We were just starting to talk. Don't let fear drive you away again. He hesitated, torn, fingers gripping his phone like a lifeline. What do I do? He finally asked, his voice thick with uncertainty, the weight of their conversation bearing down on them. Sarah took a breath. You do what you have to do for yourself and I'll support that. But don't walk away from us. Mark looked at her, a war raging in his eyes. I don't want to lose this. With the clouds overhead darkening, Sarah grasped his hand tighter, resolute. Then don't walk away. Even if you leave, keep taking steps toward us. For the first time in months, clinging to their fragile bridge of hope, they stood on the precipice between old habits and the chance to build something new together. But as Mark raised the phone, a new message arrived, the words hidden beneath a veil of impending doom. Her heart sank as an unshakable fear trickled back in. Sarah? He asked, determination trembling. What? She replied, breathless, unsure of what storm was about to break next. And just as that question hung between them, the rumble of distant thunder boomed, echoing their uncertain future. The storm clouds swirled above them, casting an eerie shadow over the diner as the first drops of rain began to sprinkle down. Each raindrop seemed to connect with Sarah's heart, amplifying her fears, her doubts, and the tension hanging heavily between them. Mark's phone buzzed yet again, a relentless reminder of the world outside their fragile bubble. He glanced at the screen but made no move to answer it. What if they need me right now? His voice was barely more than a whisper, as if even saying it would solidify the decision he was desperately struggling to avoid. They need you, sure. But who needs you more? Sarah challenged, her eyes shining with tears. You can't help them if you're not the person you need to be for yourself, for us. The rain began to fall harder, splattering against the wooden porch. Mark looked away, his face a storm of emotions, shadows dancing across his features. It's not that easy, Sarah. Nothing worth fighting for ever is, she urged, trying to keep her voice steady, though it cracked like the thunder in the distance. You've always found a way to make a difference, Mark. But there's more to life than just duty. You can fight and still be here. I don't even know how to fight this, he admitted, the vulnerability in his tone softening her defensiveness. Every time I think I'm stepping forward, I get dragged back into the chaos. Tell me what you're afraid of. Really afraid of. Not just about the army, she urged gently, her voice anchoring him. Another tense moment passed before he finally released a shaky breath. That if I stay, if I let myself be vulnerable, I'll fail again. Lose you. I'm scared of hurting you even more than I already have. His honesty pierced through her heart. Mark, you need to trust that I'm here for you. Yes, there's a chance you could hurt me, but right now the risk of you walking away is far scarier. The storm roared, the rain picking up intensity, but they stood firm, anchored to each other. Mark finally lowered his phone to his side, the weight of the moment sinking in. I wish I could just erase the last couple of years, he muttered, shame flickering in his eyes. It's not about erasing, it's about growing. Sarah stepped closer, reaching for him again. Their fingers entwined, a lifeline amidst the storm. Let us find a way to face it together. No more running, okay? As they stood there, rain soaking their clothes, the world outside felt insignificant compared to the connection they were claiming from the chaos. Mark searched her eyes, a blend of hope and fear, and at that moment, it was as if they shared a secret promise. But before he could respond, that infernal buzz resounded again. This time he didn't flinch. He relaxed his grip on the phone, a flicker of defiance igniting within him. Maybe they can wait, he murmured, a new resolve beginning to pulse in his veins. Sarah's heart soared at his words, and for the first time, she felt them on the same wavelength. It was a step, albeit a small one, and it was all she needed to drive hope into her chest. But as they stood together, united against the storm, the undeniable truth loomed: there were still battles ahead. Secrets still hidden. Mark, she said softly, what did the message say? And just like that, the first crack in their newfound hope appeared, flooding Sarah's heart with uncertainty. Mark hesitated, the moment stretching out like the storm clouds overhead. He finally looked down at his phone, the screen glowing ominously in the dim light. It was an old friend. He.S. going through something. Something big. What kind of something? Sarah pressed, tension creeping back into her voice. Something he thinks only I can help with, Mark said slowly, the weight of his words hanging in the air. He was involved in something. I don't want you to worry about it. The rain pounded harder, a wild symphony outside that matched the turmoil inside. Mark, I'm already worried. You said they need you. What if that means you can't be here with me? Mark's brow furrowed. That's the thing, Sarah. The army, the mission, it's always there. It never really goes away. And if I turn my back on that, what kind of man does that make me? Maybe it makes you human. Her voice softened, reaching out. You deserve to find peace too. You're not a soldier every second of your life. But what if my friend, what if he needs me to save him? The raw desperation in his voice pulled at her heart. And what if you need saving too? She sighed, frustration and love mixing in her chest. This isn't just about them. It's about us. What if you risk losing me in this fight? Silence wrapped around them, thick and heavy like the air before a storm. Mark ran his fingers through his damp hair, frustration blazing on his face. I can't just ignore the call. But you have to consider what that means for us, Sarah said, her heart racing. You can't save everyone, Mark. You need to make a choice between running to them or standing here with me. What have I done, Sarah? He whispered, anguish flooding his gaze. I'm lost. I don't know how to choose anymore. For a moment, Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift, shaking the foundations of her resolve. You're not lost, she said earnestly, stepping closer. You're facing a fork in the road. We can figure it out together. He looked at her, the vulnerability reflected back like a mirror. I wish it were that easy. I wish I could have both. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices, she replied softly, standing tall like a lighthouse through the storm. It's part of growing. But you can't do it alone. Not anymore. As the wind bellowed outside, rattling the diner's windows, something flickered in Mark's eyes. A glimmer of understanding, perhaps. Sarah felt hope unfurl in her chest, just as fear had moments before. Then the phone buzzed again, cutting through the thick tension. This time it vibrated violently, drowning out any words of comfort. Mark's hand flexed, as if caught between wanting to answer or wanting to throw it against the wall. Mark, she said, her voice urgent. You have to decide. Right now. What do you really want? He hesitated, the storm outside echoing his turmoil. Rain lashed at the diner, but all Sarah could see was the storm brewing within him. I want to choose, he started, but the words clashed in his throat like thunder. And as the words hung unspoken, Sarah's heart crashed like waves against rocks, uncertainty and hope battling within her as she took his hand. Then choose me, she whispered, barely audible over the rush of rain. Choose us. But just as a fragile smile began to form on his lips, another crash of thunder boomed, and an all too familiar doubt flickered in his eyes. Sarah, what if just tell me? In that breath, the pressure mounted, and Sarah felt the world contract around them. Was this the moment of truth? Or just another step into chaos? What would he say? What could he really let go of? The answer lingered like the storm clouds above, heavy and desperate, as they both stood waiting. For something to change, something to give. The air thickened between them, every heartbeat echoing like a drum. Mark's fingers trembled around his phone, and Sarah wished she could take away the weight pressing on his chest. She wanted to reach into his head, untangle the chaotic thoughts that seemed to strangle him. But she felt just as trapped, caught in the storm of uncertainty. Mark, talk to me, Sarah urged, her voice a soft plea. His eyes darted away for a moment, searching the glassy surface of the window as if the storm offered answers. But what could the rain possibly know? He started, his voice barely rising above the wind's howl. I can't abandon him. Yes, like family. I understand that, she responded, squeezing his hand tighter. But families change too. Your commitment to your friends doesn't have to come at the cost of what we have. Mark exhaled sharply, lashes fluttering against his cheeks as he blinked back the storm brewing in his own eyes. You're asking me to choose between two families, he sighed. How am I supposed to let them down? How do I walk away from someone who is counting on me? His struggle clawed at her heart. She felt herself pushing for certainty against the tide of fear. But you shouldn't be alone in that fight. I'm right here, Mark. You have someone who will be with you no matter which path you take. Silence fell around them, relieved momentarily by the flicker of the overhead lights. Mark's gaze met hers, And there was a moment of possibility. What if this isn't just about them, Sarah? He finally said, his voice low. What if it's about me? He ran a hand over his face, the tension palpable. Maybe I don't know how to choose because I'm scared. Scared of what? She gently pressed, wanting to peel back the layers of his walls. Scared that if I leave, I won't come back. Not physically but emotionally. What if my friend needs me and I'm not there? What if I fail him? The uncertainty in his voice cut deeper than the thunder outside. Sarah took a breath, grounding herself before she replied. But what if you fail us by going? The question hung in the air like the droplets slapping against the diner's roof. He faltered, and in that split second, Sarah saw it, the glimmer of doubt. The flicker of hope that had once been so resolute was wavering. Mark, nobody expects you to be a savior all the time, Sarah said, her voice steady. You're allowed to be vulnerable. You're allowed to lean on those who care about you to let us in. Something shifted in his expression. A chink in the armor he had wielded for so long. The tension eased slightly between them. But the storm outside didn't relent. Suddenly his phone buzzed again. This time a relentless chorus demanding his attention. And for a brief moment, reality crashed down like a terrifying wave. I need to answer, he said reflexively, the internal battle raging anew. Then do it, she urged. But remember, it can't just be about him or the mission anymore. Let it also be about us. As his thumb hovered over the screen, Mark hesitated. She could see the indecision flashing in his eyes, his heart divided. Would he choose the call of duty, or would he choose the call of his heart? Mark, she whispered. The weight of the moment crashing down around them. Just as he opened his mouth, the power went out, plunging them into darkness. Heart racing, Sarah felt the air shift, each breath heavy with anticipation. The storm had stripped away clarity, leaving only silence and waiting, as the world outside roared. What would he decide when the clouds rolled in? Would he be lost in the storm, or would he find his way back to her? The question hung in the dark, and her heart raced, feeling the tension swell once more. The darkness wrapped around them like a blanket, heavy and suffocating. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, the only sound breaking the stillness, aside from the relentless rain pounding against the diner's roof. She felt vulnerable, and the solitude of that moment weighed fiercely on her. Mark, she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper, please. Don't shut me out now. There was a long pause. She couldn't see his face clearly, but she could sense him processing. The internal struggle played out like a movie in her mind, the static tension almost tangible. I don't know what to do, he finally admitted, his voice thick with uncertainty. Then let us figure it out together, she said, the words spilling out as if fueled by a rush of hope. What does your heart tell you? His silence was deafening. It felt like time stretched, every second becoming an eternity. She felt her palms growing clammy as she instinctively reached for him, the warmth of his skin grounding her completely. Mark, what if you let go of thinking you have to carry everything alone? Sarah suggested, an idea blooming in her mind. Maybe you can find a way to help your friend without losing yourself in the process. Another silence fell, but this one felt different. There was a flicker of something in the air. A glimmer of understanding like lightning illuminating the dark. What does that even look like? He asked, his voice softer now. They both sighed together, the moment feeling almost meditative. It might mean you talk to your friend. Let him know you care, but that you also need to take care of yourself, she said. You can encourage him to find others to lean on too. You're not abandoning him. You're just reshaping your commitment, that's all. Mark shifted in his seat, the tension clinging to his shoulders start to ease. But what if he feels betrayed? Maybe. But it's not betrayal to stand up for what you need. It's a lesson in honesty for both of you. He exhaled, a longer breath this time, shaky yet relieved. And what if it doesn't work out? What if all my fears come true? What if they don't? She countered softly. What if this gives you the space to grow? And what if we can grow too? There was a stillness, as if the world outside had paused to listen. She felt his hand slide into hers, fingers interlocking comfortably. In that touch she could sense his fear of losing everything, but also the desire to forge a new path. Yeah, he murmured, the thought lingering in the dim light. I haven't considered that. Then in that moment of insight, thunder crashed outside. any trace of uncertainty breaking apart like the tumult beyond the glass. It felt part warning, part release. A sign that the storm wouldn't last forever. What if we have the power to handle what comes next? Sarah said, her eyes searching his. Together. A smile slowly crept over his face, the kind that felt hesitant yet inviting. Together, he repeated, now more assured than before. The lights flickered back to life, casting a warm glow across their table, and for the first time, Sarah felt like they could finally see the truth in each other's eyes, their fears, yes, but also the sparks of bravery and a shared hope. But in that moment of support, a loud crash rang from outside, sending their heartbeats racing anew. What was that? Sarah asked, anxiety creeping back in. Mark stood, curiosity mixing with concern. Let us check it out. I'll be right back. As he stepped outside, her heart thudded with trepidation. What if the storm had brought something more than just rain? Even as uncertainty loomed again, she knew whatever happened next, they would face it together. But what if this time the storm wasn't just a metaphor? The door slammed shut behind Mark, the sound muffled by the raindrops hitting the diner roof like drumbeats in a frantic symphony. A chill raced down Sarah's spine as she leaned over her table, straining to catch any glimpse of him through the rain-smeared glass. The storm outside felt like a physical presence, a reminder that the world was chaotic and unpredictable just like their lives. Shadows flickered around her as the neon diner lights pulsed softly, illuminating empty booths and dampened spirits. Her unease swelled, mixing with the damp air. The stillness was both a comfort and a threat, and she found herself biting her lip, eyes darting toward the door. What if something had gone wrong? What if Mark didn't come back? Just as the anxiety twisted like a coiled rope in her chest, she heard a loud crash echo nearby, followed by the grating noise of metal scraping against the concrete. Sarah drew in a sharp breath. Was that behind the diner? She stood up, her legs unsteady as she made her way to the door, the ground slick beneath her shoes. The rain was relentless now, a torrential downpour that blurred everything into shades of gray. From the corner of her eye, she spotted Mark a few yards away, illuminated by a flash of lightning. He stood still, eyes trained on something beyond the flickering lamplight. Mark! She shouted over the storm's roar, but her voice was swallowed by the wind. He turned his head, surprised to see her approaching. Sarah! Stay back! His tone was urgent, and instinctively she halted, watching him with a mix of concern and confusion. There, not far from him, was an overturned dumpster, its contents strewn about like a chaotic modern art installation. Trash mixed with shards of rain-drenched paper. But her attention was drawn to the more immediate concern. A figure curled up in the corner near the dumpster, dripping wet, shivering and gasping for breath. Is that Sarah hesitated, her heart racing? Is that someone? Do they need help? Mark took a step closer, the storm raging around them. I think it's a homeless man. He looks hurt. Without a second thought, Sarah felt her heart leap into action. She couldn't let this stranger suffer alone while they stood there in their dry clothes. We've got to help him, she cried, the words flowing from her like a charge fueled by shared conviction. Mark hesitated. But what if he's dangerous? Right now, he's just a person in need, she insisted, her voice steadying with resolve. We can't leave him like this. Mark looked at her, his own fears battling against her determination. The tension clashed in the storm like the thunder above. Something in his expression shifted as he took a deep breath and nodded. Okay. Together. Together. That word ignited something in her, the very promise that had been building in their hearts just moments before. They rushed towards the man, water soaking their clothes, but in that moment, none of it mattered. As they reached him, they could see his pale face, despaired and exhausted. Hey, can you hear me? Sarah knelt beside him, her heart racing not from fear, but from empathy. We're here to help. The man's eyes flickered open, confusion clouding them. For an instant time slowed. Would their courage in this storm lead to more than they bargained for? But just then, another loud crash echoed in the distance. Sarah froze, looking back at Mark, a shared question lingering in the stormy air. What else could the night bring? The rain fell heavy, blurring their vision like an artist's brush on canvas. But in that chaotic moment, Sarah noticed something. Beyond the homeless man's confusion was a flicker of vulnerability, a desperate look that mirrored her own fears. Please, the man gasped, his voice barely audible over the storm. "Help me get out of here." Each word was labored, like lifting a weight too heavy to bear. Mark glanced at Sarah, uncertainty etched across his brow. "Are you sure about this?" "This is our chance to do something good," she whispered back, resolute. "Let us not hesitate." With a nod, Mark crouched beside her, a united front against the storm's rage. "What's your name?" he asked the man. "Jake," he managed, rolling slightly to face them, though the struggle was evident. "Okay, Jake," Sarah continued, her hands now gingerly touching his shoulder. "Can you tell us what happened?" The man took a shuddering breath. I fell. Just trying to find a place to stay dry." His eyes glistened with rain and something deeper, fear and weariness intertwined. "I thought I could hide here," but the words hung between them, heavy with hopelessness as the rain hammered down, drowning out the world. Sarah's heart ached for him. She saw in Jake the helplessness they often felt around their own insecurities, their own vulnerabilities. "Mark, we can't let him stay out here." "Help me get him up," she implored, urgency filling her voice. As they hoisted Jake lightly off the ground, he leaned into them, his weight a reminder of the burden so many carried in silence. "Just a little further," Mark grunted, both of them straining as they moved against the wind. The diner's warm glow began to break through the storm haze, offering Nathan relief. "Almost there," Sarah urged, an unexpected swell of hope surging through her as she caught sight of their refuge. Finally, with one last push, they maneuvered Jake onto the diner's small patio. The neon lights flickered above them, brightening the doorway as they settled him gently against the wall. "Can you walk inside?" Mark asked, breathing hard. Jake's nod was weak, filled with a heavy exhaustion that tugged at Sarah's heart. "I think so," but he didn't have to finish. They understood. It was an uphill battle from here as the world they had just stepped from slapped them with reality. "Okay, I got this," Sarah said, kneeling to look Jake directly in the eye. "Just take it one step at a time. We're here with you." She rose, extending a hand to him. With a deep breath, Jake took it. Together they worked slowly inside the diner, where warmth enveloped them, chasing away the chill of the night. As they crossed the threshold, a wave of murmurs rose from the patrons, surprise mingling with concern. Sarah felt the weight of their stares but pushed it away with a firm shake of her head. "Focus on Jake. Help him." The smell of fresh coffee wafted through the air, flooding her senses. It was comforting yet sharply contrasted with their icy reality. Sarah secured their spot at one of the booths, helping Jake sit while scanning the room for someone to bring blankets or hot drinks. "Thank you," Jake whispered, his voice barely making it above a whisper. "We're not done yet," Mark replied, his tone firm. "You'll be okay. We'll figure this out together." "Together," Sarah echoed, meeting Mark's gaze with warmth. They had taken a step towards something deeper, something transformative. They hadn't just brought Jake inside. They were embarking on a journey that could change all of their lives. Yet, even in this moment of connection, the diner door swung open with a gust, and in walked someone cloaked in darkness, a figure seemingly untouched by the storm outside. Sarah's breath caught. Who were they, and what did they want? Could this night hold even more surprises than they had anticipated? The door creaked ominously as the figure stepped inside, a chill sweeping through the diner. Sarah squinted, trying to make out the shape, her heart racing. It was a woman, elegantly dressed despite the storm, her presence stark against the chaos that had just unfolded. The patrons turned, whispers exchanging like sparks in dry grass. "Excuse me," she said, her voice commanding yet soft, cutting through the din. "Is anyone here in need of help?" "Right here," Sarah replied, stepping forward, her heart dancing with uncertainty. "We just brought in a man who's hurt. He needs medical assistance." The woman's eyes widened with understanding. "I'm a nurse," she responded, her demeanor shifting instantly into calm efficiency. Mark stepped beside Sarah, jaw clenching. "We didn't ask for help, trust me," she interjected gently but firmly. "I can help." In that moment, Sarah felt her resolve amplify. "Please just do what you can." The woman nodded, gliding over to Jake, assessing his condition with expert poise. Each heartbeat thrummed with anticipation as Sarah and Mark exchanged glances, a bond of supportive silence weaving between them. They were navigating a new reality together, each moment drawing them closer, not just as husband and wife but as allies in this unpredictable storm. Jake winced as the nurse began checking his pulse and injuries. I just need some rest, he murmured weakly, a tinge of embarrassment creeping into his words. It's okay, Sarah said softly, kneeling beside him again. You're safe now. The nurse gently cleaned Jake's wounds while the diner buzzed with a blend of concern and curiosity, a community coming alive, unified in an unexpected moment of humanity. It was messy, chaotic, and beautiful. But Sarah's eyes drifted to Mark, who stood by the door, watching the scene unfold. A flicker of understanding passed between them. They were both finding purpose tonight, but the battle within him was ongoing. Would he cling to his old habits, or would he rise to the occasion? The nurse's voice broke through Sarah's thoughts. He'll need blankets and warmth, possibly a doctor soon, she reported. But he's going to be okay. Just needs time. Tension melted from Sarah's shoulders. We can help him. He isn't alone anymore. Jake looked up through heavy-lidded eyes, gratitude spilling across his features. I didn't think anyone would care. We do care, Mark said, stepping closer, his tone softening. Everyone deserves help, especially in a storm. The honesty in Mark's voice struck a chord. Sarah felt a spark of hope flicker brighter in her chest. Maybe this was their moment after all. Outside, the rain began to lighten, the storm waning as flashes of lightning slowly faded. The weight of uncertainty that had hung over them for so long was beginning to lift with each passing moment. Sarah, Mark said, his voice breaking slightly, and she turned to meet his gaze. I know I can't fix everything overnight. You don't have to, she interjected, taking a step closer, warmth igniting between them. But we can choose to be there for one another. Choose to be together. He nodded, vulnerability shining through the cracks of his tough exterior. I want to try, he said, voice firm with renewed conviction. Together, she echoed, squeezing his hand. The connection pulsed with warmth, and in that moment, the diner felt alive, a reflection of rekindled hope. They were ready to face whatever came next. Fiercely united, a family that had learned to redefine what that meant. Jake, nestled into the cozy booth wrapped in blankets, smiled at them, eyes gleaming with the acceptance they now offered. Thank you, he murmured again, and this time it held the weight of a lifetime. You've shown us that helping others is how we help ourselves, Sarah replied, her heart swelling. We're in this together. And as laughter rang out from the patrons witnessing the unfolding transformation, the first rays of dawn began to peek through the fading storm clouds, spilling golden light into their lives like a promise of new beginnings. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, a chance to heal, to fight, and to embrace the messy beauty of love intertwined with compassion. And it wasn't just about the diner anymore. It was about building a future that stood strong through any storm. As Sarah and Mark shared a knowing glance, the weight of the world felt just a little lighter. They had chosen to embrace the unknown together. But that wasn't all. The journey was only just beginning. Now you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. And comment your reactions. Let us know how you felt about this powerful ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.